So today we're going to try and solve a problem. How many times is a given integer n divisible by 2? So let's try and solve this without thinking about any of the code. Can someone give me a number? 32, perfect. So we start with 32, divide by 2, get 16, 8, 4, 2, and then 1. And if you see, we perform this dividing by 2 5 times. So let's try it with a different number. Let's say 8. So n starts at 8. We divide by 2, get 4, 2, and then 1. And this time, we divide it by 2 3 times. So we know that dividing by 2 is going to be an operation that we want to do multiple times. So let's try this using a for loop. So we have this int times that we want to keep track of, which is the number of times that we divide by 2. So we start at 0. And we say for int I equals, what would we start at? 0, exactly right. For int I equals 0, I is less than. So if you look at, let's say 32, we divide by 2 5 times. So we know we want to perform this operation 5 times in this specific situation. I plus plus. And so now we know that we want to divide by 2. So n equals n divided by 2. And we want to also increment this times. So say times plus plus. So there's actually a really big problem with this code. It'll work perfectly for 32, but for really any other number that we want to try, it's not going to work. We're going to divide by 2 5 times because I stops at 5, and then we increment times 5 times. So this really isn't going to work for anything that we want. So this is where something called a while loop really comes in handy. The way a while loop works is you have while some condition that we'll talk about later is true, do something, right? And so we already know what we want to do, right? N equals n divided by 2, and then increment times plus plus. So the tricky thing with a while loop is knowing what condition to put in here, right? So if we look at this, we see that n always ends at 1 for these numbers that we're using. So it's safe to say that if n is larger than 1, we want to divide by 2 again, right? So let's say while n is greater than 1. So for 32, we would divide by 2, get 16. We would go through here, increment times, and go back up as long as n is larger than 1, and keep going until we get to 1. So let's try this with a number that we haven't used yet. Let's try it with 12. We divide 12 by 2, get 6, 3, and then 1. And now that 1 is no longer greater than 1, we stop. And we see that times is going to be 3.